Okay, this is Unit 4, Attachment. You have to admit the paper clips are pretty cute, right? Um, as we've designed all these units to do, it's going to build off the things that we've already learned before. I might make quick references to things from previous units, but generally speaking, this is also a bit of a standalone that you could just watch this and you would learn something independent also of what you already know. So let's dive into it. Okay, not too much to say on this slide. It's going to be an in-class activity. We're going to read something and then we're going to have a bit of a discussion, maybe debate, depending on how it comes out, just about um, whether it is nature or nurture that is the most compelling way that determines how we grow as people and who we become when we're adults and through our lives. Um, you may have heard of this debate before. Nature basically stems from the idea that biologically things are passed to us and it's predetermined for the most part. And nurture says that you can take different people and have completely different outcomes independent of what they were born with from their genetics from biological mom and dad. So we'll get into it. Might even be parts of both. Okay, so this is Maslow. This is something that teachers learn a lot about when they go into teacher school after they do their degrees. So I and others had to learn about this, and it's quite valuable to learn. It's really the basis is that in order to really understand how people can get to a place of being able to learn, they need to be able to understand if their most basic needs, their safety needs, and their connections are being met. The idea is essentially, as you can see from the bottom, if we don't have physiological, so those are things that are going to affect our bodies literally for survival. Things like air, we cannot exist. From there, we need to have into the most simple safety needs, and these are going to be things that are mostly happening at the, if you remember, our levels of brain are happening at the reptilian and happening at the limbic emotional level. The safety needs are, for the most part, although financial is a bit of a wild card here, for the most part, run by the deeper, more important parts of our brain. Love and belonging is going to live entirely in between. We're moving through the brain now, living in between the cognitive part and the emotional part. If there's an interchange, you can probably imagine. It's those connections and that sense of belonging, and that's going to be the key word. That create feelings of love and feelings of trust. A lot of what we're going to talk about with attachment is around this idea of trust, this belief that if I'm in a place and I feel both physiologically and mentally safe, then I'm able to then make connections and then I'm able to learn and do other things. So we talk about this with teachers, and we learn about this as teachers. You can ask your teachers if they remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or Maslow's pyramid as it sometimes gets called, because the understanding is basically you can't really do learning unless you have at least the first two, and you can't do learning well unless you have the first three. Um, Esteem is what comes from the confidence that comes out of love and belonging. We know that people are not naturally confident unless they have connections and unless they feel trust and safety, emotional safety. And then moving up to the top, self-actualization. This is essentially the Maslow would say the purest way of feeling and living your life. It's only possible with the other levels all below it available. And self-actualization is really about becoming the best version of yourself. And I don't mean that in like a token stupid way. I mean like actually just becoming who you really want to be and feeling comfortable to be able to be that person. I think it's something that many people have and many people struggle with, and it is changeable. But a lot of it is developed in the early years, which is what we're going to talk about with a lot of this unit. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is our boy Gabor Mate. I may have referenced him before already in an earlier unit. He's going to come up huge in our last unit around trauma. He's kind of the guru in the world. One of the really cool things is the two main people, well, actually, so Maslow and then now Gabor, and then the third one we're about to talk about are actually from or living in Vancouver, which is kind of cool. So what I want to put Gabor up the screen here is just to really come and understand what it looks like when you don't meet Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When you're not climbing the pyramid, this is where the effects and the possibilities of trauma are at their strongest and they're at their most profound and dangerous. Um, we will read a little bit from his book when we meet as a class, just a couple pages. It's really interesting thinking about how um, nature and nurture interplay and his opinion on it. It's pretty cool, I think. So we will share this. Not too much to say about Gabber, but he's going to come up throughout the course. A really profound doctor. His most interesting not most interesting, but one of his most interesting things is that he was really somebody who lived through quite a bit of trauma himself and continues to feel influenced by that, as many people do. And then he used that, as also many people do, to then want to get into a helping profession. So he was for a long time kind of the most important doctor on the downtown east side in Vancouver, and continues to do work down there as well. Okay. Okay, so this is Gordon Neufeld. He's going to kind of be our main event guy for what we're doing on attachment. He's not the first one to come up with attachment, but he is kind of the one that, especially for parents and caregivers, is probably the most influential, definitely in this neck of the world and possibly around the world entirely. I've included a YouTube link that I'll put in the notes as well, and we will watch in class because it kind of uh, it summarizes what I'm about to say, even probably in fewer minutes and probably better. But sometimes it's nice to hear things in multiple ways. Um, his his recognition, his kind of the thing that he put forward that everybody has realized to be incredibly valuable is that there are steps to how people connect and attach. So what do I mean by attach? I mean the ability to, going back to Maslow's pyramid there, to be able to get that love and that understanding and that trust, right? We call it the love and belonging, that stage three on the Maslow's triangle there. This is what he's really saying. Okay, how do you do it? Every parent probably knows that you need air. Every parent probably knows that you have to have housing and you have to give them food, right? This is almost biologically just known to all of us. A 7-year-old could, if they had the resources, get level 1 and 2 on Maslow. But on love and belonging, right? On trust and connection, and this all summarizing word attachment, where two people, or sometimes more than one to a child, but definitely one for sure, how do you create that in the most optimal way? And what he did by studying um, a huge number of, and he had people doing this with him, a huge number of relationships, is he was able to basically put it into 6 steps. And this has been used for parents and caregivers all over the world. And it's kind of, sometimes people get really known for a thing. So his first 6 steps, and you can kind of see I'm putting them in very short term there, from being with to like to belonging to mattering to our heart to our emotional intimacy, and finally psychological intimacy. So more specifically, there are 6 that he would call. Number 1, proximity. This is just and nicely I'll say, these kind of link with the first 6 years of life as well. Um, so every year, a child often will start a new one. So in the first year of life, roughly, it's every kid is a bit different, of course. At the time I'm recording this, my kid is just moving out of the first one, which is proximity. She's just turned 1 years old, and proximity is the idea of needing to want to be physically close, right? It's the idea that this person will take care of me, that I matter to them, that they will always look out for me. We'll use a term in this class sometimes called unconditional positive regard. This idea that no matter what, they're there. They're like a rock for me, and I just want to be close to them. That's how I will show attachment, and how they will show attachment to me. If we are near each other, we're good. It's actually also one of the fundamental reasons why, maybe you've heard, I hadn't until having a kid, that in the first hour after a kid is born, for the most part, the parent or parents are left with the child as soon as possible, and they just rest the child on your chest. It's thought to be the golden hour in raising kids. It's quite fascinating because it's literally just an hour, and all the nurses, doctors, everyone just leave, and you just put the kid on your chest and you hold them, and that is the most basic way of getting proximity and creating attachment. And we know that the younger they are, the more it matters. So it's pretty cool. Stage 2 is sameness. This is when the kid starts to realize that, like, oh, you're like this and I kind of like you, so I want to be like this. We do this, of course, with our peers and our friends a lot as well at older ages. Um, you will see some mirroring of these 6 steps that happen to other attachments in our lives as well. But when we're older, we can go through these much quicker because we've already experienced them, hopefully. So sameness, that's often between 1 and 2. So I watch as my kid, for example, I like throw the ball for my dog Hadley down the hall, and then she's like, oh, I want to do it. Now she's a really bad throw. She's 1 year old, but she wants to do it. So this is the idea of sameness. And then between the ages of 2 and 3, we see this belonging and loyalty, right? So kids often, especially as they get more language, they're going to say things like, "That's my mommy. That's my daddy. That's your daddy over there. This is my daddy. My mommy's the best." These sorts of things. Um, and the whole idea is that there is like a possessive piece to this, that they recognize you're with them, you're not leaving them, and there's almost an ownership, not in the way that most of us would think of ownership, but just like, no, they're for me, they are my person. And there's a lot of loyalty. Kids will show loyalty to parents at this point. I don't think they understand the concept of loyalty, but they'll show it. The fourth step is significance. We'll often see this kind of in the age 4 now, right? So fourth year, fourth step. So this is the idea that they're going to make efforts to matter. So like if they notice like you appreciate a hug, oh, you're going to get more hugs. They're going to look for ways to get validated and reassured, just like you do in friend situations, just like I do with my partner and my friends as well, right? This is the step of looking for validation and that you matter. You have at this point by age 4, you've kind of got the concept that like, oh, some people matter more to my parents than others. So how do I make sure I matter? And I'm going to test that a lot, as kids like to do. The fifth step is, and again, they're getting older, so it's a little bit more mature, a little bit more higher conception. 5 is love, and this is basically the idea that like we want to be able to express and show love. If you were ever going to get a heart from kindergarten, it's going to be at about this age, right? It's going to be like, I want to make this for my mom and dad, and kindergarten teachers know this, and so they often create activities that send things home. So we want to give and we want to receive love, sorry. It's very reciprocal. And then the last one is being known. It's kind of considered to be the deepest level of attachment. And the idea is that like I now feel so safe with this person that I can say things to them, or I can tell them things that I'm not proud of, or that maybe I made a mistake. A 2-year-old will not do that nearly as quickly. They'll be a little bit more worried, and they're still developing more of their early stages. A 5-year-old with good attachment, a 5, 6-year-old with good attachment, will admit to things that they've screwed up. They will show vulnerability. They will use those into their next part of their lives. And that's what we're going to talk about next here is like if you do those 6 things and you do them well as a caregiver, what does that do? Or if you don't, what does it not do? So let's go back for a second to attachment theory and what Neufeld's all about here. So attachment theory goes back a while ago, 50s, 60s, Bowlby, and it comes from his own personal experiences. The way a lot of psychologists have their experiences shape their interests and the things that they want to study, right? We know this is true of a lot of things in life. Um, so the key things here are that bonding is an intrinsic human need. So Darwin, way back, noticed this in all animals. Like there's an element of survival that's needed, and we need each other, and we bond for those reasons. And we also use attachment to help emotionally regulate ourselves. We know that people often can regulate better in the company of other trusted people. We see our small children who will cry, 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 put them in mom's arms, boom, instant stop. And that promotion of adaptiveness and growth is important. We have to, once we have our 6 stages from the last slide, we need to be able to encourage our kids to take risks. Otherwise, if they don't, they won't do it later. So even small little risks like, oh, you know what, you could probably try that slide. Let's do that slide. I'll watch it. I'm here. I'm keeping an eye. Now you can do the slide. And as silly as it sounds, those sorts of things make it easier for youth to feel comfortable taking risks. And I don't want to say like jumping off cliffs here, but like safe risks with other people they like or they love or they're interested in or they want to do activities with. All of these things have an effect. So secure attachment, as it's kind of known, is the goal. Secure attachment is the idea that I feel safe and trusted and I can try things that I otherwise wouldn't, right? And this is where a parent is trying to get their kid by age 6 in the attachment theory. This is the goal. Um, and it basically, the theory goes, and full disclosure, I subscribe to this too, is that if you do those things, the outcomes for your kids are going to be incredibly better. They're going to be much more significantly ready to deal with the challenges of the world and to not be afraid to try things, to step out of your comfort zone, to show determination, to show resiliency, to take those risks. So that's basically the idea, and why it is thought that attachment theory really sets people up to be successful for the rest of their life. So I won't say too much about it right now. We're going to do an activity, and yeah, it's just going to help us think a little bit about how our attachments, which attachments are the most important to us, and how those attachments have influenced us. So we'll do that in class. Okay, so this is just an example of mine. We'll put it up in class and we'll talk about it as well. Mine actually isn't that sophisticated in previous years. Last year when we did this activity with mental health leadership, the kids, I was like, oh, yours are much better done than mine. But it was pretty rushed, in fairness to myself. Okay, so this comes from not just Neufeld, but going back further into original attachment and just a general understanding of what human beings need. So these are four things that I think are just interesting to think about in relation to the family tree activity that you will have done by the time we go through the slides in class. Um, and so the irreducible, just for those who don't know, means that basically that word means that it can't be further broken down. So think about like prime factoring. Sorry to make it a math thing here, but think about prime factoring. You can't break down two into more prime factors because it already is just one and two. That's as far as it goes. So something that can't be broken down further is irreducible. So for humans, the four irreducible needs. Number one, a child's connection for those responsible for them. So having that attachment to their caregiver, right? That's number one. Security for the child to be who they are. So this shows up in a lot of families. The most classic example I can think of is when a student feels like they are not feels they've realized that they are not who they are in their sexuality or their gender, and that to be able to come out to their family takes a high degree of security and attachment to the caregivers. Sadly, some people will never be able to do that. Some people maybe will take a long time to do that, or it'll come out in an argument. And some people, thankfully, will have caregivers that'll have created those 6 levels of attachments really well, and the kid will feel secure to be vulnerable about their sexuality or their gender. Number 3, permission to feel their emotions, right? So that's again right linked to that vulnerability. We know that from our emotions unit that people need to process their emotions and they need to experience their emotions and then reflect and understand their emotions. People do that regardless to some degree, but whether you do that well is going to be linked to your attachment and the trust and security you feel with your caregivers, and often at the age of teenagers, some of their closest friends as well. So the permission to feel vulnerable or to feel emotions is a vulnerability. And then the last one is the experience of free play to mature. So we know that we can't just hold our kids away from the rest of the world, and they have to try things. If they don't experiment, if they don't sometimes screw up, if they don't um, make efforts to push themselves, then they don't grow. Growth is about going into uncomfortable spaces, and we don't go into uncomfortable spaces unless we feel safe to be vulnerable, which we don't do unless we feel secured and attached, and we don't have that unless we feel the attachment to the caregiver. So you can see how they kind of work 1, 2, 3, 4, and then backwards. So in the activity, we're going to have you identify kind of like what are some of the people that you put on your family tree that you think, or you know really, because you will know, meet the requirements for these irreducible needs. They helped you get to the place of feeling that. And hopefully you do feel that. Okay, so I'm going to put these prompts up here. One of them might become a discussion or an in-class write. Don't know yet. We'll see. Probably one will become a discussion for sure. So these are some things that Gordon Neufeld has said that I think are just particularly interesting to be able to share. You don't need me to read it out loud. You can do that when you're ready, or pause the video. I'll also probably do this with an activity and reading a little bit of Gabor Mate's book. Again, there you can see page 127. We'll probably do that in class, and then put these up and just things to think about. Okay, and then this is an additional video that I don't think we'll be able to watch in class. I would really appreciate if you could take the time to watch it. It's just 20 minutes and it's really quite interesting. I would even suggest sit down your own caregiver, put them next to you and watch it together. I think it's quite interesting and powerful, and it's for caregivers essentially. It's from a TED Talk that Gordon Neufeld did. See if your parents know who Gordon Neufeld is too. And then from it, I took a question that I actually am going to, I've just already decided it's going to be both a discussion and it's going to be an in-class write. So you know in advance here, one of your in-class write questions, describe how early parental caregiver relationships determine and influence the learning available to all kids. So this video is about relationship, and it's about how that then affects learning. Um, which is why I put the Google picture of the teacher with the kids rather than the parent with the kids on this one. And that kind of summarizes what we're doing for Unit 4. Looking forward to it. I try not to have favorites, but this is something that I think is really crucial to mental health leadership, just generally to understand how it all works. Okay, see you soon.